Welcome to the story world.
There once was a very lovely and cheerful village where greenery and tranquility reigned supreme. In this very village lived a man named Ramu. Physically, Ramu was sturdy and robust, yet his nature was quite peculiar and eccentric. While the other villagers would head out to their fields and chores with the very first rays of the sun, Ramu's day would begin by simply lying beneath an old, massive peepal tree. Ramu's greatest affliction was his laziness. All day long he would do nothing but indulge in idle daydreams, wishing, oh, if only I could somehow get my hands on some piping hot halwa puri and other delicious delicacies, without having to lift a single finger. Often, while gazing up at the clouds, he would muse,
"Work is for donkeys. The truly wise man is the one who sits back and eats in comfort."
The villagers were well aware of this habit of his, and, not out of affection but rather in jest, they had dubbed him Lazy Ramu. One afternoon, with the sun blazing directly overhead, Ramu found himself ravenously hungry. There wasn't a single grain of food left in his house. He noticed that in his neighbor John's garden, luscious golden mangoes hung heavy upon the trees. Their enticing aroma only served to sharpen Ramu's hunger further. The very notion of earning money through hard work was utterly alien to his mind. So he said to himself,
"Why bother working hard to earn money? Stealing is so much easier."
Moving stealthily, like a cat, he crept into the garden. He had just reached out, grasped a tree branch, and touched a large mango when John's loyal dog, Max, suddenly appeared on the scene and began barking furiously. Hearing Max's barking, John came rushing out, brandishing a sturdy stick, and shouted,
"Catch him! Catch him! Thief! Thief!"
Ramu was absolutely terrified, scared out of his wits. Clutching his slippers in his hands, he fled so fast that he didn't even dare to look back. Running headlong, he crossed the village boundary and plunged straight into a dense nearby forest. On the way, Ramu stumbled upon an old earthen pot that was half buried in the ground. Ramu imagined that it might contain gold coins and that his fortune was finally about to turn. With great difficulty, he dug a small hole and hauled the pot out of the ground. However, instead of gold, the pot was filled with black lumps of coal. Ramu was just about to sit down in despair when a passerby happened to walk by. The passerby remarked jokingly,
"Hey there, brother. That is actually magical coal. If you sleep with it tucked under your head all night long, it will turn into gold by morning. The only catch is that you must stay awake all night to guard it."
Ramu was delighted. He reasoned that staying awake all night was certainly preferable to doing hard labor. He sat there all night, clutching the pot and fighting off his drowsiness. But just as dawn broke, an overwhelming wave of sleep washed over him, and he drifted off. When he woke up, the coal was still just coal. He felt as though God had betrayed him, whereas in reality, it was his own laziness and his constant habit of seeking shortcuts that were causing him to fail time and again. This incident made him even more irritable. Famished and utterly miserable, he wandered deeper into the forest. Hiding behind a bush deep within the forest, Ramu sat there cursing his luck. Just then, his eyes fell upon a fox. The fox looked very strange and pitiful. She had trouble with her legs. She was dragging herself along with great difficulty. Ramu felt saddened upon seeing her and began to ponder.
"Oh my! How does this poor fox manage to survive? She can neither hunt nor run fast enough to save her life. In this dense jungle, where predators roam constantly, finding food must be utterly impossible for her.
Just then, a terrifying roar suddenly reverberated throughout the entire forest. The king of the jungle, a massive and fearsome lion, was approaching. Trembling with fear, Ramu nimbly scrambled up a tall tree. He observed that the moment the lion's roar was heard, all the other animals fled for their lives. Yet that helpless two-legged fox remained sitting there calmly. Ramu shut his eyes in terror, convinced that the lion would now devour the defenseless fox in a single gulp. However, when no scream was heard even after a few moments had passed, Ramu slowly opened his eyes. He could scarcely believe what he saw before him. The lion was carrying a basket filled with fruits. With great tenderness and serenity, the lion placed the food directly in front of the fox and, without causing her any harm, quietly walked away. Ramu's jaw dropped wide open in sheer astonishment. A sudden realization flashed through his mind. He thought,
"Wow! This means God has made arrangements for everyone. He provides food even to the insect living inside a stone. If God can provide food to this disabled fox right at its doorstep, then what is the need for me to run around and toil so hard? After all, I, too, am a being created by Him. From now on, I, too, shall receive my food right here at home."
Ramu returned home with great enthusiasm and lay down under a tree growing outside his house. He resolved in his heart that he would not lift even a single finger from now on, but would simply wait for God's miracle. The first day began to pass. Morning turned into afternoon. Ramu thought that perhaps a neighbor or a passerby would come bearing food, but everyone was engrossed in their own work. The sun set and night fell. Ramu's stomach began to rumble. Blinded by hunger, darkness began to swim before his eyes, yet no one came. The second day dawned. Ramu was now beginning to grow physically weak. He felt that perhaps God was testing him and would eventually send an angel. Stretching his hands toward the sky, he cried out,
"O God! I am waiting for you here. Where is my food? Will you not feed me just as you fed that fox?"
The entire day passed, and the silence of the night descended once more. Yet Ramu was left with nothing but thirst and hunger. By the morning of the third day, Ramu's condition had deteriorated to such an extent that he could barely even stand upright. His body had withered away, and his voice had grown hoarse. He could not fathom why God had helped the fox, yet not him. Was he somehow even more wretched than that fox? Distraught with hunger and despair, Ramu began to make his way toward the old temple situated near the village. He felt that perhaps he would find God there. On the way, he met an elderly sage whose eyes were filled with profound peace and wisdom. Weeping bitterly, Ramu poured out his entire tale of woe to him. Sobbing, he asked,
"Maharaj, is God truly so cruel? He fed that helpless fox in the forest, yet he left me, right here near my own home, to starve. Am I not his child? Was there some flaw in my devotion?"
The sage smiled gently. His smile was filled with compassion. First, he offered Ramu a drink of water from his water pot. Then, placing his hand affectionately upon Ramu's head, he spoke.
"My son, what you say is true. God has a plan for every single particle and every living creature in this creation. And you, too, are an integral part of that magnificent plan."
Ramu asked, with a mixture of bewilderment and slight anger.
"Then why have I been starving for 3 days? Why did I not witness that miracle?"
Gazing directly into Ramu's eyes, the sage replied in a calm, steady voice.
"My son, you completely misinterpreted God's sign. There were 2 animals in that forest, a helpless fox and a benevolent lion. On that day, God was not teaching you to become like that helpless fox, to be dependent on others and sit idly with your hand outstretched. Rather, He was showing you that you should strive to become like that lion, one who not only provides for his own needs but also possesses the capability to help others.
The sage's words struck Ramu's heart with the force of a thunderbolt. The veil of ignorance lifted from before his eyes. He realized the magnitude of his greatest error. He recognized that God had endowed him with 2 healthy hands, 2 strong legs, and a sharp, intelligent mind. He was not born to be a pitiable creature like a fox. Rather, he had the potential to become powerful and a provider like a lion. From that day forward, the laziness within Ramu died forever. Starting the very next day, he began working diligently in the village. Initially, he took up odd jobs. However, through sheer hard work and dedication, he became so successful in farming and trade that he came to be counted among the most respected figures in the village. Yet, Ramu did not merely become wealthy. He made the sage's lesson the very foundation of his life. He established a large, free kitchen on the outskirts of the village, where he fed every poor, helpless, and hungry person. No longer did he sit at home waiting for food. Instead, he himself became that very lion, the one he had witnessed in the forest that day, who fed thousands of people. This story teaches us, desiring success without hard work is futile. As long as one is physically able, one should not remain dependent on others. It is essential to correctly interpret the signs sent by God. Rather than becoming a pitiable figure, we should strive to become a helper. If you are capable, utilize your strength not merely to fill your own stomach, but to serve others.
Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Also press the bell icon.